Happy Halloween.
Let's talk about the role of the GM. This is a concept which I think has changed a lot in recent years and is worth taking a fresh look at. Most commonly, people will say that the GM is responsible for the world and everyone in it, from the small setting details to individuals to entire nations. That is a GM's domain. Typically, the GM is also there to enforce rules, and for those who follow the concept of Rule Zero, they are allowed to create or remove rules as they see fit. Of course, in many cases, a GM is a host and organizer of games, but that's not something I'm going to be covering here because that's more of a social issue and I prefer to stick with game theory. Finally, the GM commonly writes the story in which the game takes place. For those who have been watching me for a while, you probably know where I'm going to go with that one. So of those, what's really necessary for one person to accomplish and what has simply been implied by our experience with previous systems? A lot of GM-less games that exist out there have really shown us that not necessarily all these have to be settled onto one person. And even some systems that allow for a GM, such as Siren, don't give them the authority to do it within the context of that system. With regards to creating and running the world, this is something that more and more systems are putting in the hands of the players, and is exactly what the video I created on narrative control is about. Regarding rules, I've actually never seen a rules argument come up in a GM-less game, and if one did, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be resolved by a simple group consensus. On to storytelling. I think people tend to overestimate the importance of having a single person with authorship over a game. Some games, such as Kagamatsu or My Life with Master, are able to maintain their theme simply by adding elements through the dice mechanic randomly into the game. Also, I've often seen a narrative created very naturally among the players because people have a tendency to pick up the elements that are important to them and drop the ones that are less interesting. So what happens when we start spreading out these roles? Well, we start to see the GM more as a player. In fact, I think it's best to think of the GM as a player with a different role. So why would we do it this way? Well, first off, it's more fun for the GM. Second, the players are more active in the game and often more invested in the story. And third, you waste less time on prep. And yes, I consider the majority of time spent on prep to be wasted. Some GMs have difficulty with this concept because they don't like the idea of giving up authority. And that's really just too bad for them. Because the only authority they have is what the players give them. They don't actually have any control over the other people at the table, unless they are in a position of authority over their players, in which case they should really play My Life with Master with them, because that would be amazing. Sharing GM roles is a lot like sharing narrative control, as I spoke of in a previous video. Now I've given up on exerting a lot of the authority that I used to over my games, and I found they got a lot better for it. But I'm curious what you think. How do you feel about this concept?